Well, guys, so we're gonna finish with the exercises from your worksheet. So I will do the explanation about Esther and amines, okay? As you can see here, we have an Esther. The group Esther is this, right? Is this. So remember, double bond to oxygen and single bond to other oxygen. It comes from the carboxylic acids, but remember, instead of the hydrogen here in the carboxylic acid, we have other hydrocarbon chain, other R. We're gonna have this, and the way to name this, it's always given two different suffixes for each one. In the first one, the first side is the one or the branch, or radical if you want to talk about this, link to the functional group. Always, it will never change. Always, the chain that is linked to the functional group, the main functional group, will finish in 8. And the other chain will finish in "il." Always. Okay? You're never gonna have that this chain is 8 and this is "il." No, never. Always the one that is linked to the functional group finish in 8 and the other finish in "il." We're gonna have two different ways to give the correct name for each one. So, why I put here carbon number 1 and here other carbon number 1? Because both chains are different, right? So they are not linked together or something like that to continue giving numbers. No. The carbon number 1 in both of them must be this because it is closest to the functional group, and you continue taking into account the longest one, etc., as usual. So, as you can see, in the first that I have here, I name first of all this part of the compound and after that, okay? And in the second, we have the opposite way. I mean, first of all this, and at the end this one. Both are valid, okay? Both are correct. You don't need to choose one of them. No, both are correct. So, if you have this, guys, the first one, you have 3,4-diethyl, 2-methyl, in alphabetic order as usual, hexanoate. Why hexanoate? Because the main chain has 6 carbons and it finishes in 8. If you put hexate, I mean, for me it works, but the correct way to say or to name this is this. Of this one, I mean, dimethyl, because it's 2,3-dimethyl, butyl, because it has 4 carbons. So but for those 4 carbons, and "il" because this chain finishes in "il." If you do this in the opposite way, it works too, but the main difference is that here you don't use the "of." I mean, 2,3-dimethyl butyl, that is this part, and next to this without the "of," you have 3,4-diethyl 2-methyl hexanoate, okay? Both works. The final compound are the amines. So if you remember, it is the main functional group of an amine, NH2. I mean, how can you recognize this? Where it comes from? It comes from the ammonia group. I know that you have listened to something about this because the ammonia, for example, is used to the inks, I mean, tintes de cabello. The odor of this is very, very strong. It is not comfortable, but ammonia is the basic structure to give the amines, okay? As you can see here, you have 3 hydrogens. And depending, guys, on the quantity of hydrogens that you replace by a hydrocarbon chain, you're gonna have, guys, a primary, a secondary, or a tertiary amine, okay? So primary, in the primary amine, you have 1 hydrocarbon chain, so you replace 1 hydrogen. Can you see here you have NH3 and here you have NH2. You have replaced just 1 hydrogen. For the secondary, you have 2 hydrocarbon chains and 1 hydrogen. It means you have replaced here 2 hydrogens. You have to remember, guys, that this prima means that these radicals or hydrocarbon chain can be equal, but it could be also different, okay? And in case of the tertiary, you have the whole hydrogens replaced. So as you can see here, you don't have hydrogen next to the nitrogen, and you have this at the end. Basically, guys, taking into account this, you will name each amine depending, or each type of amine depending on the quantity of hydrocarbon chains you have. So, first option, the primary. In the primary, guys, you have here, it's very easy, you name your chain. So you choose the main chain. Here you have 3 carbons, and in the main chain you have 2 branches. For that reason you have 1, 2 dimethyl propyl, because it has 3 carbons, so propyl amine. When you have a secondary, so when you have a secondary or a tertiary amine, you have different options. The first option that I'm showing you here is when the both chains are exactly equal, not just in quantity of carbons, I mean in the main chain, no. They must be exactly equal in terms of the location of the branches, etc. For example, we're gonna set something hypothetically. You have this ethyl in this carbon and this ethyl here in this carbon, they are not equal, okay? So you name this different. In this case, as both branches are in the same carbon, you can name this like the, because it means you have 2 exactly equal chains. 1 ethyl propyl, because it is 3 carbons amine. What happens when is it not? Can you see here you have 2 branches or 2 hydrocarbon chains different. It has 4 carbons, it has 3 carbons. I will start with the shortest one, always, guys. So 1, 2 dimethyl propyl, look at this, propyl, because it has 3 carbons. And after that we pass to the other one. So in this case you have 2 ethyl, that is this, in the carbon number 2 you have an ethyl, 1 methyl, butyl amine, okay? You never can start here with a but, because here you start by the shortest and after that the longest. And you're gonna do here the same, but here I show you something very specific. I show you 2 chains with the same quantity of carbons in the main chain, but they are different because of the branches that they have. So how can I start in this case? I will start with the with this one, because it's the one that has less quantity of carbons. It means it has less molar mass, okay? After that, this, because both are the shortest one, but in this case it has less quantity of carbons. For that reason, the molar mass of this is less. I take this because it has more carbon, so it means it is the second one, okay? So 1 methyl propyl, because it has 3 carbons, 1, 2 dimethyl propyl, 1, 2 dimethyl propyl, because it has 3 carbons. And finally, what happened with this? It is the longest one, okay, because of the 4 carbons. So for that reason, it is at the end 2-ethyl butyl amine. 2-ethyl butyl, because it has 4 carbon amine. Well, what's the idea? That you do the 2 exercises that you have in your worksheet to reply this information and to know if it is clear, to bring me questions for the next class. Thank you very much, guys. Next video, aromatics.